The legacy of Carl Jung has led many of us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world in general. For many, a mere name Carl Jung is immediately associated with the inspiration and creativity. We tend to think of art as representing specific forms of activity, such as painting, but for the purpose of this video, I will use the word art and an artist to represent the creative process itself and the person engaged in it. Anything is an art if you put your soul into the creation of a final product. Creativity has been often represented as being associated with madness. Famous individuals, such as Tesla, Van Gogh, or Beethoven, has received the label of being somewhat mentally disturbed, either troubled by obsessions and compulsive behaviors, or by delusions and some psychosis in general. Hence, artists are often seen as having some sort of mental disturbance, and before their genius is understood, they are often either somewhat ostracized by the society for their wickedness, or they willingly distance themselves from other people as they might feel misunderstood or simply prefer to walk their path alone. Jung, however, emphasized that madness does not equal creativity. Any genius who suffers from mental illness is not a genius because of it, but despite of it. The compulsion to create often separates an artist from an ordinary person. They are driven and passionate about something which has been given to them, or something they have discovered by themselves. The creation for them is not merely to satisfy their own urges, but to express what lurks in the shadow of the society, and to bring something new, something that might often disturb the status quo and a common understanding of life. Art is thus an outlet, a profound discomfort, and a cure for this urgeness at once. Without it, many people who are driven to create would end up truly mad. Many artists live primarily in a conflict. From the one side, they are longing for the normal life, happiness, and human relationships, but from the other, they are driven to create. They must do it as if it was their duty to express this energy, or simply to get rid of this discomfort that penetrates their mind. It might often feel as being on a mission to change humanity, or even being chosen to do something particular in this world, such as pointing to the hidden beauty of everyday life, or to create something that will increase the general well-being of the humanity. An artist might often go through various labyrinths in order to balance their creative side with the necessities of the everyday life. That's the price they have to pay for the gift they have received. Whilst their peers are out socializing, they will try to master playing an instrument, immerse themselves in reading and writing, and trying to paint that perfect picture which captures their most treasured emotions. Because of this focus on the creative process which produces significant energy drain from other areas in one's life, it is a common phenomenon that such individual will have some parts of their personality impoverished and others highly developed. Hence, we can often meet artists who are quite narcissistic, selfish, or egocentric. Some might appear quite anxious or terrified. Others are overly perfectionistic, and yet others extremely extroverted and very loud whilst in the company of others. But what is it exactly that distinguishes an artist from a mad person? We must understand where the creative urge is coming from in order to answer that question. Jung theorized that the creative impulse comes from the unconscious. It might be a manifestation of our hidden memories or drives, or some forgotten ideas. Such drive is rather autonomous, hence often the impression as if an artist was led by some unknown forces. At the same time, Jung saw art as natural and as a symbol of growth. The very expression of this creative impulse is something that makes us intimate with the universe, because it allows us to tap into our instincts, nature, and various archetypes. In short, the creative process is about bringing treasures from our personal and collective unconscious and translating them into modern language and symbolism. An artist allows this process to penetrate their whole being, their senses and their feelings, making them sensitive to the hidden laws and dynamics of the universe and the society. All people receive this impulse but each person might deal with it in a different way. The most common way to deal with it is to censor it so it never truly reaches our consciousness. But this is not what happens in the mind of an artist and a mentally disturbed individual. Both an artist and a mad person receive these impulses rather freely. The difference, however, is that a truly disturbed individual is overwhelmed by this content from their unconscious. They don't know what to do with it, how to react. They might try to block it whilst compromising their mental health. The artist, however, befriends it, they express it, channel it into their work, reflect upon it, and assemble all impulses they receive into a coherent whole. They use art to understand themselves, the world, and the unconscious realm, both on the personal and on the collective level. So, technically, if we only removed that censorship in order to allow more content from the unconscious to float into our conscious mind, we would become more creative. Hence, many artists were found to use drugs, such as cannabis, in order to loosen up the conscious mind and reduce the censorship in order to tap into that creative force. However, I don't recommend this method since there are easier and safer ways to get this process working to our advantage without compromising our health. The common cause of the so-called creative block is precisely our own attitude to ourselves and the world around us. We become blocked because we censor whatever our unconscious wants to tell us. When Jung has separated from Freud and his philosophy, he experienced precisely what we might call the block. He was unsure what to do next, what is it exactly that he would like to achieve, what is his life path. He was asking himself, what is the myth that you live by? While looking for an answer, he played with stones by stacking them, creating various buildings. He was painting, drawing, writing creatively. Without asking why, he was led by this creative process and impulses from the unconscious, which manifested themselves through the creative activities he was engaged in. His persistence and yet lack of self-control have eventually helped him to overcome the block. He made his way out of the difficult situation he was in. We can learn from this experience that playing with ideas, experimenting, doodling, or playing with something is an important part to get our creative process going. We can't always expect to get genius ideas out of nowhere. We have to make our way towards them, very often, quite literally.